Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. So there's another joint, a break from the editing. Still have you to do prayer and meditation for the record. This is another joint considered previously, recently, yet to be shared. So here it is. And again, working on putting these joints on a monthly basis. Because this is just too much pretty. Alright, serious. What we're going on here is the suffering, some of the suffering and experience, some of the experience of the suffering of punk rockers, and also the suffering caused from punk rockers, so that all I and I have better understanding, overstanding, cooperating, that's not it, sharing. So some of the suffering of punk rockers, if you imagine being 4 or 5 years old, living a dream life, everything is comfortable, everything is happy, everyone is loving, all the words are kind, everything is win, win, win. It's not even like, it's not fake win. Everything is like serious aces. 4 or 5 years old. What is taught is supreme, superior, beautiful, awesome, chosen, all the fantastic things. Then there's a little bit of the introduction of, and look over there. Sad, isn't it? Yeah. I'm glad to be here. That binary is slightly introduced, and we know, oh, come on, this tastes so fantastic. This smells so fantastic. Then, 4 or 5 years old, teacher gives a very, very gentle pop quiz. Okay. How quick can you say yes? Yes. Oh. Sorry, so-and-so. You didn't say it as quick as everybody else did. Now you're number 2. Oh, now you're number 3. So-and-so, you're also number 2. Okay, that's okay. I'll take it. So now, from that point on, things are not as cheery and bright for number 3. And it's never going to be what it was as number 1. Everything is different. And you best be careful, because there's the susceptibility of number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. Oh, that's part of it. And you gotta toe the line, because these pop quizzes come without expectation, without warning. Next pop quiz. Okay, so and so, we're talking about those people over there. Do you think that one is nice? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Number 3. Oh, okay, I'll take it. It's not nice. Punishments, consequences for empathy outside of the realm. Continuing on, age 6, age 7. By that point, there's hierarchy, 1s, 2s, 3s, and so on. Oh, so-and-so isn't here today. They've moved to another school. Better, worse, depending on circumstances. But then the kicker, one of the kickers, is that, oh, you made a friend. Oh, boy so and so and girl so and so like to be around each other. very nice, very loving with each other. Like to share stories and walk around the playground. Both are at the same level. One, fantastic. But eventually, maybe maybe boy one slips up. He didn't say, bugger to those others quick enough on the pop quiz the other day. So now he's number two. And guess what? He can't be with girl number one now. But nope, girl number one, she's the number one. There it is. Never again. If you want to fight, up number three now. Don't fight. Don't argue. You go to your parents, you want some justice, you want some retribution, you want to just try again. Can I get a retest? No. Parents say, we told you about this. We warned you. We tried our best. Now let's be happy with what we have and continue on. But it's not fair. No. Don't cry. Don't worry about it. Keep going. But no. It's done. That life is gone. Get used to this next one. So that's the thing. And that might not seem that big of a deal for some kinfolk who are dealing with like tenacious stuff, but it's a matter of understanding how much one is conditioned, attached, connected with that experience of happy. And then how severe, how quick, how cold and calculated that is taken away slightly, and still looking over the cliff at what could be otherwise. Now, that's the first tiers. So for the punk rockers, it's a matter of like, this is bullshit. And at some point, after being devalued and getting too many of those disobedient scores and degradations, it's just like, bollocks to all of you, and to the whole thing. And so I didn't want to go to that school anyways. I didn't want that job anyways. I didn't want that house anyways. I didn't want that relationship anyways. It's not worth all that. So then it becomes a rebellious type of thing against the system, which is there's a significant or an increasing amount of honesty, because it's not just a matter of having the pleasantries and just the blinders on or whatever, but one can talk about what's going on in the world. One can talk about suffering. One can talk about injustices, increasingly, not all the way, because there's still that privilege. So it might be a huge leap or down from the hierarchy. It might be a 7, it might be an 8, or it might be a 9, but it's still never the total lower bottom. And that's where the suffering from punk rockers emerges. Because punk rockers continue to be participants within the imperialism. Everybody is one way or the other to some extent. But the challenge with imperialism, the challenge with punk rockers, this is another way of looking at it. Let's talk about those others. Let's talk about growing up as those others who've been pointed at. Aren't even in the room, don't even know about what's going on in the room or otherwise. A lot of those others simply like live with the earth, work in the fields, know what it's like to work under hot sun, to sweat, to go through clothing like nothing. So, but have a certain peace and a certain even pride, certain sense of self with this relationship, with the work, with the sweat, with the holes in the clothing and the mending and the solutions that exist within it. There's a peace, there's a harmony, there's a well-being, and there's a strong relationship with nature, and a strong relationship with people, family, valuing of that, and additionally. So that's part of the environment, that's part of the backdrop, that's part of the foundation when looking at the suffering caused by punk rockers. So in that experience of having that relationship with nature, the relationship with family, relationship with people, and life. Um, that is comparatively antagonistic to the plight of imperialism, towards the exploits and the ambitions of imperialism, because imperialism relies significantly on technology, and it relies upon people's dependency upon the technology and upon the methodologies of the imperialist construct. So when people are independent, don't need the empire, then the, the empire wanes. So part of the purpose of the empire is to cause dependency upon the empire, and that involves essentially polluting and destroying nature, particularly for the sake of polluting and destroying nature. Not even just in terms of like raping and pillaging nature, but actually intentionally and woefully polluting and destroying nature, so that people can't gain their sustenance and independence as readily, and thus rely further on the empire. So that's part of there's point being, there's an antagonistic relationship between empire and nature, and essentially science and nature, because science is the methodology of cultivating technology for the purpose of empire. So there's an antagonistic relationship. There's a perceived inverse relationship between empire and nature, between science and nature, and thus between imperialism and those who champion relationship with nature and people and life. Yeah. So what happens is that kinfolk who live in that environment, who live in that experience of valuing nature and people, when kinfolk see the destruction of nature, when kinfolk see the pollution, that's pain right there, a serious pain. And when kinfolk see symbols of that destruction, of the culture, the intentionality, the ideology of pollution and the destruction of nature, that's pain and fear and threats of violence, literally. And so when kinfolk see people who color their hair, now that, again, for the punk rockers, that's a sign of rebellion against empire, and not being part of the system. And here's evidence. I'm not getting the corporate job. I'm not playing the role. I'm not wearing the suit. I'm not wearing the costume of imperialism. Proof right here, plain as day, from the punk rockers' perspective. But from the naturalist perspective, when seeing the colored hair, that's not natural. That's pollution. That's a chemical that's causing degradation to the environment, and so it's very much akin. That was a duck that just flew by. It didn't even look like a goose. It looked like a duck. Duck, 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 duck. So when naturalists see that hair, it's very much akin to seeing a Nazi uniform, because that's the severity. That's how the severity of pain and affliction. It's a sign, the unnatural hair, whether it's pink, blue, uh, yellow, dyed yellow, all those symbolisms that people utilize to proclaim themselves as not part of the hierarchy of imperialism are exactly proclamations of imperialism for naturalists, and not just in terms of the relationship with nature and pollution and destruction of nature, but also pollution and destruction of family relationship, because a lot of the behavior of the punk rockers and initially the culture is one of individualism, and that detracts in the rebelliousness that detracts from traditional family and relationship And additionally, because in the perspective of the punk rocker, that's all part of the conformity. That's all part of playing other people's games and living up to other people's expectations, and kowtowing and subordinating oneself to the the biases and prejudices and selfishness of others. So that's part of the culture of the punk rockers. But again, for those who are naturalists, that's just saying, yo, I'm already being shitted on by empire because of the destruction of nature, and enslavement and everything else like that. And now here come the punk rockers who are imperialists and further destroying, and so destroying nature, um, undermining the experience of traditional family and relationships, and then further pretending to be friends, and pretending and expecting to be recognized as allies, and supporters of the downtrodden. So, and that's and when not recognized immediately, then giving some money, providing some kind of and buying that allyship amongst some of the downtrodden, some of the naturalists. So now there's proof. And see, we're part of the people, and then there becomes um, that intentional imperialism upon the part of punk rockers, of and a certain amount of um, anger, frustration, resentment towards naturalists who don't recognize the sacrifices that punk rockers make. So then, for the naturalists that don't mess with punk rockers get infuriated because they know the truth within that, and punk rockers go through a significant amount of pain, just as in life everybody's going through pain, but even further in intentionally um, foregoing maintaining what they could have had before becoming punk rockers or otherwise. Um, there's certain things that are offered. There's certain things that are foregone, sacrifice, and there's a lot of pain in that. Punk rockers foregoing racist parents, and additionally in those relationships and the security and the comforts that punk rockers can otherwise glean from maintaining those relationships. So, and then not being appreciated for that, not being recognized for that, not getting credit for that. So then that's part of the resentment, but at the same time, still also quietly knowing I'm still part of it. Even though I've gone through all these sufferings and sacrifices, I'm still part of the game in the empire, and I'm still oppressing these other people. And they don't recognize what I've gone through, but at the same time, they're legitimate in with the gripes against me too. And that becomes further infuriating. So then there's that doubling up of divide and conquer amongst naturalists, or the endeavor of that, of saying, well, here these are friendly ones, and these recognize me, and I appreciate that, and I'll support them, and so I do the best I can with the ones that appreciate me and support me. So um, then it becomes that kind of touristy kind of experience of relationship, and the facades of getting along, and photo ops, and like the aesthetic of of um, the aesthetic of the mosaic, um, and even generations of that. So, anyways, that's part of the consideration concerning suffering of and suffering from punk rockers, is that the totality is everything. Most likely otherwise. How is the most pressing and the most salient? Perhaps it's sharing consideration for its content for consideration. Um, Abstaining from presuming to know everybody, the totality of everybody's suffering, but knowing something about it, because guess what? I do it. I am that. So that's the nature of this trod. So and it's articulated so that those who have less of that experience on either side may have some further understanding, and empathy, mutually, cooperatively, enduringly, honestly. Lee, 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 lee. So, there it is. Yo, that's it. Para. All thanks and praise to the Most High. All thanks and praise to the Most High. All blessed love and peace. Rastafari.